Hello students, this is Professor C. Tanuja Bhati from Jain College of Engineering, Belagavi, Department of MBA. Today, we will be seeing and continuing with the revision lecture of Module 3, Time and Value of Supply, under the subject of Indirect Taxation. We will be today covering place of supply for services. As we already know that problems are covered under Module 2, 3 and under Module 3, we have completed time of supply of goods, time of supply of services, place of supply of goods. Today we will be seeing place of supply of services and I have named this video lecture as IT Problems Module 3.D. Moving ahead. So in this today's video lecture, we will be covering Module 3 Time and Value of Supply, wherein we will be seeing simple problems on place of supply for services. So, place of supply in case of services, very important. What is place of supply? As I've already told you all in the previous video lecture, that place of supply provision is required to determine the place, that is nothing but the taxable jurisdiction where the GST tax should reach. And place of supply is an important factor to determine whether which type of GST taxes will be levied, whether CGST or HGST if it is intrastate, or whether IGST when it is interstate. So the two factors based on which you will decide which type of GST tax is to be levied is based on the location of the supplier and the place of supply. So moving ahead, place of supply for services. See, in a previous video lecture we have seen for goods, but for services also the sections are different. Section 12 of IGST Act and Section 13 of IGST Act talks about place of supply in case of services. Now Section 12 has to be used when both the supplier and recipient is located in India. Means this section 12 has to be applied first of all if there is a supply of service and both the service provider as well as service receiver is located in India. So you have 13 such cases which will help you determine that under different cases or different scenarios what can be the place of supply. Similarly, parallelly to that, we have section 13. The section 13 of IGST Act has to be used, has to be applied when there is a supply of services and either of the recipient or the supplier is located outside India. Means either the service provider or service receiver is located outside India, then you need to apply section 13 of IGST Act, under which you have 10 cases. So based on these provisions, you will be asked problems in your examination. You will be having simple problems as per VTU syllabus. So a quick revision in case of goods, which are the two sections? Section 10 and section 11. In case of services, you have section 12, section 13. Section 12 is to be used when both the supplier and recipient located in India. You have 13 cases. And section 13 is to be used when either of the supplier or the recipient is located outside India. Moving ahead. Now let us see the place of supply, section 12 for services. So we know we have 13 such cases. Let us see each case one by one. So the first case is covered under section 12 subsection 3. Now where is section 12 subsection 1? Section 12 subsection 1 simply tells us that if the supplier and the receiver is located or the recipient is located in India, and if there is a supply of services, please use section 12. This is what is mentioned under section 12 subsection 1. Section 12 subsection 2 we will be seeing in the succeeding slides. So the first case begins with section 12 subsection 3. Let us see the first case. Nature of supply of service. If it is a service relating to immovable property, related services including accommodation in, then place of supply will be location at which the immovable property is located or intended to be located. So it is self-explanatory. If the services are relating to the immovable property, the place of supply is obviously going to be the location of the immovable property. Let us see the second case, which is covered under section 12 subsection 4, which is services relating to restaurant and catering services, personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment and health services. So in such case, the place of supply is going to be location where the services are actually performed. So if the supplier is providing services relating to restaurant, catering, personal grooming, fitness, beauty, health services, what is going to be the place of supply, which is going to be the taxable jurisdiction? It is going to be that particular place where the services are actually being performed. Next, section 12 subsection 5, if the services are relating to training and performance appraisal. Now if any training services have been given, then place of supply will be, if suppose the services is provided by a business entity who is registered to a recipient who is also a business entity and who is registered, so it is called B2B. B2B means when both the supplier as well as the recipient are registered under GST. So location of such registered person means, suppose I am a registered person and I am providing training facilities to XYZ Enterprises who is also registered under GST. So the place of supply will be the location of XYZ Enterprises. Location of such registered person means location of the recipient. Now in case of B2C, now B2C is where the supplier is registered under GST but the recipient is unregistered under GST. It means it is B2C. So if the training services are given by a business entity to a business entity which is not registered under GST, or to any person who is not registered under GST, then place of supply will be location where the services are actually performed. So you will just need to remember, if there is a particular type of service, what is going to be the place of supply. With the help of these, you can easily solve the problems. So let us see problems on this. So let us see problems on section 12 subsection 3, 4 and 5, which we have now covered in the previous slides. Okay, first problem. KTS Builders is constructing a factory building for LMP Private Limited Kolkata in New Delhi. So here there is construction services that is being given, which is relating to an immovable property. So obviously which section you will apply? Section 12, because giving construction services is a service, correct? So if it is a service, you will apply section 12. Now which section? Section 3, subsection 3. And what does section 12 subsection 3 says? That if any services is relating to immovable property, place of supply will be the location of the immovable property. So let us see the answer. Place of supply is New Delhi. The place of supply is the location of the immovable property. So it is constructing a factory building in New Delhi. So that's the reason the place of supply is New Delhi. But when you're writing the answer, if you can remember the provisions and the section number, it will be very helpful in order to make your answer more good. So you can write that as per section 12 subsection 3, if any services is providing in respect of immovable property, the place of supply will be the location of the immovable property. Therefore, under this problem, the location of immovable property is New Delhi. Therefore, the place of supply is the location of the immovable property. Let us see next problem. Mr. A businessman from Pune, dines in a restaurant. Dines in a restaurant means goes for a dinner in a restaurant at Mumbai while on a business trip. Now, when he is going in a restaurant, when he is taking restaurant services, it is a service and not a goods. So what is the place of supply in this case? So again we have to use section 12 subsection 4. So the place of supply is Mumbai. The place of supply of restaurant services is a location where such services is performed. So where the restaurant is, where the service is given to you, restaurant services, that will be the place of supply. So it is Mumbai. Third, DO consultants registered person impart GST training to accounts and finance personnel of Sun Cements Limited, Guwahati, Assam at the company's Kolkata's office. Now, what is the place of supply? Guwahati. By applying which provisions? Section 12, subsection 5. Since the recipient is registered, the place of supply is the location of the registered person. Students, I told you all, if it is B2B, it is the location of the registered person, that is the recipient location. And if it is B2C, it is the location where the services are actually performed. So your DO consultants is imparting GST training to of Sons Cements Limited, Guwahati at the company's Kolkata's office. So that's the reason it is Guwahati. Place of supply is Guwahati. Next. Now I already told you there are 13 cases under section 12, out of which 3 cases we have already seen. Moving ahead to the next 4th case. Section 12 subsection 6 is the 4th case, where if the nature of supply of service is in respect of admission to an event or amusement park. So place of service supply will be the place where the event is actually held or where the park or other place is located. So suppose if there is some event going on and you have enrolled for that event, so that is the services. In the event they'll give you services. When you go to an amusement park, you have so many services there. So what is going to be the place of supply in such a situation? As per section 12 subsection 6, it is going to be the place where the event is actually held. Next case, case number 5, that when the services is in the nature of organizing an event. When you're going to organize an event, obviously it is providing a services, not goods. So services obviously section 12. Now suppose if the services is provided by B2B. Now B2B and B2C have already explained. B2B is where who is registered under GST provides services to another person who is registered under GST, and B2C, a person who is registered under GST is providing services to an unregistered person under GST. So in case of B2B, location of such registered person, when it is such registered person means the recipient's location. Okay, and B2C is location where the event is actually held. And note, if the event is held outside India, it is always going to be location of the recipient. Next is, the next case is case number 6, that is covered under section 12 subsection 8. Transportation of goods including mails. So if there is a service of transporting goods including mails, what is going to be the place of supply? If the transaction is happening between B2B, it is going to be location of such registered person. Let me repeat, such means the location of the recipient. And if it is B2C, location at which such goods are handed over for their transportation. So location at which the goods are given for transportation. Suppose from Belgaum I am giving the goods for transportation to maybe Mumbai. So in Belgaum I am handing over the goods for transportation. So Belgaum will be the place of supply. Note, where the transportation of goods is a place outside India, the place of supply shall be the place of destination of such goods. So where the goods are destined to reach, so that will be the place of supply in case where the goods are to be transported outside India. So these here we covered case number 4, 5 and 6. Let us see problems on these cases. So let us see problems on section 12, subsection 6, 7 and 8. So problem number 4. Mr. A resident of Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh, buys a ticket for a circus organized at Gurugram, Haryana by a circus company based in New Delhi. Now what is going to be the place of supply? It is going to be Gurugram. The place of supply is the location where the circus is held. Because as per section 12 subsection 6, what does it say? That in case of admission to an event or maybe admission to an event or amusement park, it is the place or the location where such event is held. So the circus is organized in Gurugram, so the place of supply will be Gurugram. Next, problem number 5. Grand wedding planner in Chennai is hired by Mr. Ramesh, who is unregistered person based in Hyderabad, to plan and organize his wedding at New Delhi. So you are organizing an event. So section 12 subsection 7 tells us that as per that, the answer is New Delhi because the recipient being an unregistered person, the place of supply is a location where the event is actually held. And if it is B2B, it is obviously the location of the such registered person, that is the recipient. But since it is B2C, it is going to be where the event is actually held, and event is held in wedding is to be held at New Delhi. Therefore, the answer is New Delhi. Place of supply is New Delhi. Next, sixth one, determine the place of supply where Mr. Y, an unregistered person of New Delhi, sends a courier to his brother in Amritsar, Punjab. So, the answer is New Delhi because as per section 12 subsection 8, the recipient being unregistered person, the place of supply is the location where the goods are handed over for their transportation. See, if it is B2C, if the recipient is unregistered, it is going to be the place where the goods are handed over for their transportation. So from New Delhi, the courier has to be sent to Punjab. But to send that courier, he is handing over to that courier service or is handing over for transportation in New Delhi. So place of supply is New Delhi. Next, we have covered 6 cases. Now there are 13 cases totally. So out of which 6 are covered, 7 more. So let us see the 7th case under section 12 subsection 9. If the nature of supply of services is passenger transportation, if it is a passenger transportation service, place of supply in case of B2B, it will be location of such registered person. B2B means where the supplier also is registered, where the recipient also is registered, and location of such registered person means the location of the registered recipient. Now B2C, if the services is given, place where the passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey. So place where the passenger is starting on the conveyance for the continuous journey, where he is beginning for the conveyance for the transportation, that is going to be the place of supply. Section 12 subsection 10, that is the 8th case, where the services, any services given on board a conveyance. So place of supply will be location of the first scheduled point of departure of that conveyance for the journey. Next, case number 9, section 12 subsection 11, telecommunication services. If any services is relating to telecommunication services, place of supply will be if the services is relating to mobile, internet, postpaid services. If there is any postpaid services, so location or billing address of the recipient. If it is a prepaid service like vouchers, we take prepaid vouchers for recharging a mobile, then place of sale of such vouchers. If there is services involving fixed line circuits, dish TV, etc., location of such fixed equipment. If any other case, apart from this, if there is anything relating to telecommunication service, it is going to be address of the recipient in records. So students, you need to remember if this particular type of service is there, what is going to be the place of supply as per this subsection, section 12 subsection 11. It has to be memorized by you people. So let us see problems on this. So let us see problems on section 12 subsection 9, 10 and 11. So that is case 7, 8 and 9. So first, determine the place of supply for below. Mr. Amar, registered person in New Delhi, travels from Mumbai to Bangalore in airjet flight. Mr. Amar has brought the tickets for the journey from airjet's office registered in New Delhi. What is the place of supply? So as per section 12 subsection 9, the place of supply is New Delhi because the place of supply is the location of the recipient. Because if it is registered, it is obviously going to be the location of recipient, that's such registered person. Now let us see problem number 8. Mr. X is traveling from Delhi to Mumbai in an airjet flight. He desires to watch an English movie during the journey by making the necessary payment. So he is taking services on board a conveyance. So section 12 subsection 10, as per that, it is the first schedule point of departure. So here is traveling from Delhi to Mumbai. So the first point where he is going to depart for the journey is New Delhi. Therefore, as per section 12 subsection 10, the answer is Delhi. So the place of supply of such services of showing movie on demand is the first schedule point of departure of the conveyance for the journey. Next, problem number 9 is Mr. E of New Delhi gets his postpaid bill paid online from Goa, the payment being made through electronic mode. So what is the place of supply? So the answer is going to be New Delhi, because as per section 12 subsection 11, the place of supply is the location of the recipient in the records of the supplier. That is in case of postpaid billing, we have seen that is we have seen under section 12 subsection 11 that if it is relating to postpaid, any telecommunication services relating to the postpaid facility, is obviously going to be the place of supply, and the location of the recipient in the records of the supplier. So in the records of the supplier, it is New Delhi. So therefore, it is New Delhi. Moving ahead. Now section 12, we have to see case number 10, 11 and 12. So section 10 is covered under the section 12 subsection 12. So if any services relating to banking or other financial services, okay, section banking and other financial services, so the place of supply will be location of the recipient of service on the records of the supplier. Suppose if it is an SBI bank and there is customers, so what is the record of that particular customer in the books of or in the records of SBI will be the place of supply in case that customer opts for any particular service. So location of recipient of service on the records of the supplier. And suppose if the location of supplier of service, if the recipient's location is not available in the books of the supplier, then it is going to be location of supplier of service. So understand this, when any services relating to banking or other financial services, remember one thing, it is always the location of the recipient of the service on the records of the supplier. But suppose if that record is not available, it is place of supply by default will be location of supplier of service. Next case is section 12 subsection 13, insurance services. If any services relating to insurance, and if that service is provided to B2B, then location of such registered person, that is the recipient. And if it is B2C, location of the recipient of service on the records of the supplier. So if it is B2B, whatever is the location of the recipient, and if it is B2C, whatever is the location of the recipient of service on the records of the supplier. Next, section 12 subsection 14. If the nature of supply of service is relating to advertisement services the government, okay. So now the place of supply in case of government, advertising services by the government, then each of the states, union territories where the advertisement is to be broadcasted, displayed or run. Many a times advertisement services is taken by the government. So whichever state, whichever union territory where the government wants the advertisement to be broadcasted, displayed or run, that particular state will be the place of supply. And suppose if it wants equally to be displayed in different multiple states, then the proportionate value in each of the multiple state will be the place of supply. In case of place of supply, it will be that particular state, but in case of value, it will be the proportionate value. So let us see problems under section 12 subsection 12, 13 and 14. So case number 10, 11 and 12. So first one, problem number 10. Mr. B of New Delhi withdraws money from the Best Bank's ATM in Amritsar. Mr. B has crossed his limit of free ATM withdrawals. So obviously he belongs to Delhi, but he just been to Amritsar and is withdrawing money from Amritsar. So what is the place of supply? Place of supply is the location of the recipient of service in the records of the supplier. So since Mr. B belongs to New Delhi, obviously you will give your records to the bank where you actually belong, because the address proof will be actually from where you belong to. So New Delhi. So New Delhi is the place of supply. Next, 11th. Mr. A, CEO of XY Limited, Mumbai, a company registered in Maharashtra, buys insurance cover for the inventory stored in company's factory located at Mumbai from Excellent Insurers Chennai, registered in Tamil Nadu. Now there is an insurance coverage here. So section 12 subsection 13 will be applicable. So the answer is place of supply is Mumbai, because the place of supply is the location of the registered recipient. Because it is a B2B transaction, so therefore the location of such registered person, which is nothing but the location of the registered recipient, which is Mumbai. Next, problem number 12. Gujarat government gives an advertisement contract to an advertising agency which is registered in Ahmedabad to promote Gujarat tourism throughout the country. Now throughout the country means multiple states are involved. So the answer is, whenever government gives some advertising services, the place of supply will be, the place of supply is all the states and union territories of India. So all the states and all the union territories of India, wherever the, because it is saying throughout the country. So the place of supply will be all those states and all those union territories of India. So we have covered 12 cases. The next one, default rule, is under section 12 subsection 2. We had seen section 12 subsection 1, which says that section 12 has to be applied only when the service provider and the service receiver both are located in India. And we had begun with section 12 subsection 3. And this section 12 subsection 2 is a default rule. Default rule means what? Means this rule is to be applied when none of the services are covered. That is, the place of supply of service will apply for all those services except those services that are specified under section 12 subsection 12 to section 12 subsection 3 to section 12 subsection 14. In short, what do I mean to tell is, you should apply this section where there is some services exception those specified. Whatever I have specified now under section 12 subsection 3 to section 12 subsection 14, all those services you have the provisions of place of supply. But suppose if there is any other service which is not covered under those sections, then you have to apply this default rule of section 12 subsection 2, and as per this rule you have to determine the place of supply. So this will be applicable excluding those services that have already been covered. So if it is B2B, let it be any services. Which services? Any means exception of those that are covered now in my earlier slides. That is, as exception those services that are covered under section 12 subsection 3 to section 12 subsection 4, excluding all those. If there is any other service, apply this rule. So if the supply is B2B, then the place of supply will always be by default location of such registered person. When I say such registered person, means the registered recipient. And when it is B2C, where the address on record exists, means on the records of the supplier, the record of the recipient is there, then the location of the recipient. Suppose if it is not there, suppose the supplier doesn't have the record of the recipient of in that case, location of the supplier of services. So let us see a problem on this. Mr. A, a chartered accountant registered in New Delhi, makes a supply of service to his client Mr. B of Noida, Uttar Pradesh, registered in Uttar Pradesh. So what is going to be in this case? There is a supply of service. Now do we know what type of service? It is a consultation services. Okay. Can be supply of service to his client. We don't know it is a consultation service or it is a provision of any service. We don't know. So in such a case, we have to apply the default rule section 12 subsection 2. So in this case, since the supply is made to a registered person, the place of supply is the location of the registered recipient. So that is Noida. So Mr. B is in Noida, so it is Noida. Next, we'll see one example for B2C also. Mr. A barber in Gurugram, Haryana, registered in Haryana, provides hair cutting services to his client, Mr. C, who is a resident of New Delhi but is not registered under GST. So, a registered person is providing to an unregistered person, which is B2C. Now, solution can be two. Suppose if the address of Mr. C is available in the records of Mr. A, then location of Mr. C will be the place of supply, that is New Delhi. And if the records is not available, else the location of Mr. A, which is Gurugram, shall be the place of supply. So this default rule has to be applied only when when it is covering those services which is not covered in those services that is mentioned as under section 12 subsection 3 to section 12 subsection 4. Then you need to apply this default rule. Or if you're not able to find the particular thing, then you need to apply this default rule. So with this we have completed section 12 of IGST Act. Now moving ahead to section 13 of IGST Act. Now section 13 is to be applied when? Section 13 is to be applied when either of the supplier or the recipient is located outside India, and where there is a provision of services and not goods. So remember, section 13 is to be applied where either of the supplier or the recipient is located outside India. So again in this we have 10 cases, so quickly we'll see. Where the nature of services supplied is in respect of goods which are required to be made physically available. So the place of supply will be location where the services are actually performed. Next, services which require the physical presence of the recipient or the service or the person acting on his behalf with the supplier of service. So location where the services are actually performed will be the place of supply. Next, service supplied directly in relation to immovable property. These cases are only where either of the supplier recipient are located outside India. So place of supply will be place where the immovable property is located or intended to be located. Next, fourth case, where there is a service relating to admission to or organization of an event, place of supply will be place where the event is actually held. Case number 5, where the services is supplied in respect to banking, financial institution, non-banking financial institution, intermediary services, services consisting of hiring of means of transport including yachts but excluding aircraft and vessels up to a period of 1 month, then the place of supply will be location of supplier of service. Next, case number 7. If there is any services relating to transportation of goods other than by the way of mail or courier, then the place of supply will be the place of destination of such goods. Case number 8. Where the supply of services a passenger transportation, the place of supply will be the place where that passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey. Case number 9. Where the services provided on board a conveyance, then the place of supply is the first scheduled point of departure of that conveyance for the journey. Case number 10. Where the services are in relation to online information and database or retrieval services, that is on any online services that has been given. So it is the place of supply will be location of the recipient of service. So in detail, why I am not explaining this, because already explained under section 12, half of them are already covered. But remember, this section you need to apply only when either of the recipient or the supplier is located outside India. So let us see under problems, place of, and there is a default rule for this as well, section 13 subsection 2. So default rule you have to use when none of the services are covered or specified from section 13 subsection 3 to section 13 subsection 12. If none of the services are covered, then you need to by default apply this. So what does the default rule say is that for the rest of the services other than those specified under section 12 section 13 subsection 3 to section 13 subsection 12, what is going to be the place of supply? Location of the recipient of the service. By default, place of supply will be location of the recipient of service. But suppose in all other cases, it is going to be location of the supplier of service only if location of recipient is not available in the ordinary course of business. If the location of recipient of the service is not available, then it is going to be location of the supplier of service. So this is a default rule, as we have seen also in section 12, subsection 2. Now let us see problems on section 13. Mr. X, New Delhi, imports a machine from Germany for being installed in his factory at New Delhi. To install such machine, Mr. X takes the services of an engineer who comes to India from Germany for this specific installation. Now here the supplier is from outside India. So obviously any of one, either the recipient or the supplier is outside India, blindly you are going to use which section? Section 13. Solution. The place of supply of installation of service which requires physical presence of machinery is the location where the service is actually performed. So it is New Delhi. Next, Mr. X, a hairstylist registered in New Delhi, travels to Singapore to provide his services to Mrs. Y, a resident of Singapore. So it is New Delhi and Singapore. So obviously section 13. So solution is the place of supply is the location where the services are actually performed. So that is Singapore. Next, problem number 3. Mr. C, an architect of New Delhi, provides professional services to Mr. Z of New York in relation to his immovable property located in Pune. So what is the place of supply? It is the place of supply is the location of immovable property, that is Pune. Next, a circus team from Russia organizes a circus in New Delhi. See, why I am saying that you need to apply section 13, because either of the party is outside India. That is the reason. So place of supply is going to be the location where the event is actually held, that is New Delhi. See, even in the exam, if you don't remember the section, it is okay, but you need to write the correct place of supply with the correct explanation. Next, problem number 5. A travel agent registered in New Delhi books a tour of famous Indian cities for a Dubai resident. So what is the place of supply? Place of supply is the location of the supplier of service, that is New Delhi. 6. A shipping line, Mumbai, Maharashtra, transports a shipment of flowers from Mumbai to Paris for an event management company based in Paris. So what is the place of supply? The place of supply is the location of destination of goods transported. So that is Paris. Next, problem number 7. Mr. A, a foreign tourist, has booked a ticket from New Delhi to Sri Lanka flight from an airline registered in New Delhi for a continuous journey without any stopover. So the place of supply is the place where the passenger embarks on a conveyance for a continuous journey. So therefore the place of supply is New Delhi. So depending on the provision, you can solve and find out the place of supply for any problem. So thank you students. By this we have completed the place of supply for services. In our next video lecture we will be covering value of supply. Remember, for place of supply, more important is you remember the provisions and apply those provisions properly in the problem. You will get the correct answer. And as per video syllabus, only simple problems are covered. So therefore, you can easily solve any problem. Thank you students. Thank you so much.